that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow, and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise person who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on rock. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. O good and gracious God, you have called us each by name. You have called us into fellowship and community here at St. Columba's. You call us to seek to find the way, narrow as it may be, to seek to live God's love in who we are and how we are and who we are with others and with you. You have blessed us with this place, built by others before us, entrusted to our care. We pray that you help us to be wise and good and forward-thinking stewards, that we may care for it and prepare it for your future, that many, 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 many more may come to know and love you through the witness of this place. In Jesus' name, amen. So I just want to start by observing that how wonderful it is to see so many people here. Clearly, this is a matter of some interest, and that's good to see and know just in and of itself. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And while I'm going to be doing much of the talking this morning, I'm only able to do this and be here and offer this presentation because of a whole lot of hard work of others. In particular, the Master Planning Committee, led by Elizabeth Taylor, who's here with us, and with the support and leadership of the VESTRY. So I'm speaking, but there are a host of others who are behind my words. And this morning, what I want to do is see if this thing will move us forward, which in its simplest form, we're looking at ways to care for and improve and adapt our property. And for our current mission and ministry and for the future. We've already been gathering a lot of information. We're going to test that information out. Some of it that we gathered was pre-COVID, some of it's shifted. We're going to be drawing up a number of options as to things that we have heard and believe would be important and valuable for us to do. And then we're going to come back to you in the spring, and back to you as the fullness of the congregation, and in large groups and small groups, so that we can hear what you think about the options that we have been clarifying. And you can point out things that you're excited about, things you think we missed, things you're hoping for, and so on. Can you forward that for me? I guess this just doesn't reach. Thanks. You don't need to be able to read this financial statement, even though it's as large as I can get it, just to say that our property is our most highly valued tangible asset, and that our financial statements in late 2020, at the start of our master planning efforts, showed total assets of $9.9 million, of which 7.5 million, 75% was the book value of the plant and the property. And the current market value is probably substantially higher, We've not had an appraisal of the property in the last couple of years, so I can't say exactly what the market value is, but our facilities are a precious resource for us, our property. As always, they can do with some care, and there's opportunity for improvement and possible renovation as we think about who and how the church needs to be going forward. The property, and here just for orientation, the turquoise, we're sitting in the church here. This is 42nd, that's Butterworth. This is Albemarle. And St. Columba's, that's about a 1 3/4 acre plot of land here, prime real estate. And with a broader aerial view, makes you aware that we're right on the threshold, if you will, between a major metropolitan thoroughfare and a lovely residential neighborhood that way, and along 42nd Street, a variety of businesses and organizations that are serving the community, from Iona to Janney to Georgetown Day School, AU Law, further down the way. So we've been asking what changes, if any, we should take to sustain us as a center for proclaiming the gospel in this place, through worship, through care, through mission, for our congregation, and for the wider community. And what changes, if any, will strengthen our capacity for our crucial ministries that we have here of music, of education, of the nursery school, of outreach and youth and hospitality. And what changes, if any, do we need to be making that will prepare us for the future, whatever the future of the church is to be? And there are a lot of people trying to look into glasses to see what that could be. We're also giving thought to what steps, if any, we can take with our property today that will help generate revenue, directly or indirectly, for sustainability for the church for future generations. And are there ways we want to use this asset somehow more deeply or more fully to address our commitments to children and to youth, to racial justice, to ending family homelessness? Right now, the Nursery Schools Board of Governors is in the midst of some strategic planning, and we're going to be able to incorporate specific hopes and needs that emerge from their thinking. And Molly, if you'd move that forward. So what the VESTRY asked the Master Planning Committee to do, our strategic plan of living God's love calls us to develop a comprehensive master plan for our campus and facilities that identifies how we can best use these assets to support our mission in line with our parish priorities. Our parish priorities, to rehearse those once again, are to strengthen community, and the action steps in there are about strengthening our community as a congregation internally, and the way we serve as a strengthening of the community, reaching out beyond ourselves. Priority number 2 is practicing faith. That encompasses everything from our worship and prayer and learning. Becoming anti-racist, not as a project or as a program with an end date, but as an essential component of what it means for us to be disciples of Christ, seeking to live God's love. To embrace our world in service and seeking justice in the world in ministries of compassion and advocacy and outreach. Building capacity is the last, stewarding and building the resources that we have. Molly, if you would. So where are we in this process? We launched this, the VESTRY launched it in 2020, and the Master Planning Committee put together a vision task force, and they met with staff and they met with the leaders of our ministries. And when I say that's like the head of the youth council or the head of the altar guild and so on, and got a lot of input from all of those folks, and prepared some preliminary findings, and then in 2022 explored options to address those needs. And as I mentioned in my opening words. What we're up to right now is we're going to take all those different ideas and hone them down so that we can come back to the congregation with some specific options to hear what your thoughts are. If you would. I will say that out of that initial gathering of ideas and visions, the Master Planning Committee did some preliminary assessment of cost and strategic alignment to see how those ideas fit and served, and how we thought they might be possible. And out of that, it clarified our thinking to focus our attention primarily around issues of hospitality, accessibility, and flexibility. To put a little bit more flesh on what those words might mean, hospitality is pretty straightforward, how it is that we welcome folks from beyond. So this has us paying attention to our I'm not an architect, or would we call it the envelope, the outside perimeter of our property, how we're seen, how we're lit, how there's access, how there are entrances, how you can make your way in and find what it is you're here for, then how we can gather and be here in this space. Accessibility, in all the different meanings of that word, is of course essential. And flexibility, you may be aware or have noted that our two wings along Albemarle and Butterworth are built primarily with cinder block. Those are a little bit less flexible than one might wish. I'm not sure what construction we're going to use, but we know that over the decades, our need for different spaces has changed. And so anything we do needs to be done in anticipation of being able to repurpose it at a future time. Also essential that emerged through this thinking was long-term sustainability, both environmentally and financially. Molly, just to give, and I'm aware that you can't see this at all, but it's a host of ideas that came. Everything from new entrances, new reception areas, renovated courtyard. Of course, during COVID, we got to use our courtyard in all sorts of ways, and that created a host of new ideas. Some better flexible space for use by our youth, for adult formation, for service, for the water ministry, better Wi-Fi connectivity and virtual meeting capacity, and trying to anticipate and look ahead, better arranged music wing. Then we get into some essentials of renovating the main kitchen, making sure that everything is ADA compliant, better lighting, storage, and so on. Throughout these conversations, one of the things that came up time and again is a desire for some new multi-purpose space. If you're familiar with the property, you're aware that as gathering places, we have the Great Hall, which is very large, and the next room down in size is room 212, which is a whole lot smaller. Are there spaces that we could create that would be accessible and that would be somewhere in between those sizes to be used, whether it's by youth or for other groups? And one of the things that has come to, that we've been paying attention to, is around our property at Fletcher House. Fletcher House is right there. It's at the corner of 42nd and Butterworth. Some of you perhaps know George Fletcher or members of the Fletcher family who provided that house to us. It has been a variety of things during the course of its history, but it is currently unoccupied and is in considerable disrepair. And we have been told that it's probably not wise stewardship to invest in repairing it. So that raises opportunities and questions about, would we put a new structure on that site? If we did, the footprint would allow for creating approximately 4,800 to 5,000 square feet of space for that flexible use space that I've been referencing. There have been and I hope I said this in the overview, I'm going to say it several times, no decisions have been made about Fletcher House or about any of these things that I am talking about. We are contemplating and looking at all of the options and ideas. So no decisions have been made on whether to replace Fletcher House with a new structure or what we would put in a structure if we did that. But consistent with the original charge, we're thinking both to how our property could conceivably generate revenue and also how we can use it to further fulfill our mission and our strategic goals. Some may ask about how any new construction would align with St. Columba's commitments to partner with others to end family homelessness in the District of Columbia, which is also part of our strategic plan and vision, and or our advocacy work for affordable housing, specifically in Ward 3. I am mindful of the fact that those issues may be controversial, both within St. Columba's congregation and among our neighbors. So what I want to say at this point is that the Vestry has not wavered in its commitment to either of those things, and the Master Planning Committee is working systematically. It is securing outside expertise as needed and exploring all options, including commercial, program, and residential. So yes, any of those things are on the table. And I don't think it is wise for me to say anything much more about that until we have something more specific and are prepared for presenting that not only within the congregation, but knowing that you, the congregation, we, the congregation, are in the community for how we're going to share that with the wider community. Does that capture what I needed to there, Elizabeth? Thank you. I'm getting the green light from... how are we going to pay for it? Well, this isn't in the text, but I'm inclined to say, well, that's where we come in. For changes to the existing building, we do anticipate part of what get all of this work underway is the fact that in 2024, St. Columba's is going to celebrate its 150th anniversary. And it is a good time for us to take stock of the path we have traveled thus far and to look ahead as to where it is God is calling us and how it is that we can prepare for future generations. The Vestry has not decided, but anticipates that a capital campaign would be part of a celebration of our 150th anniversary. And we also anticipate that any construction of any new construction, we would need to look at options for financing. And we're aware of that, but we haven't yet gotten to that stage. So next steps, and then I'm going to stop talking. My primary purpose our primary purpose, the Vestry Master Planning Committee, was for me to send out word, us to send out word and offer this presentation to let you know that this work is underway and to give you a general sense of where we are in this process. And as I've said, from here, we're going to develop our thinking a little bit more. We need to test out some of these things and put financial models around them and then be able to come back to the congregation. Sometime we anticipate this spring, and so that we can then systematically gather input from you, and we'll do that in a host of ways. Forums, small groups, online, and so on, so that you can tell us what you think is important or what it is we've missed, what it is you hope for. I will say that we have a wonderful engagement team that's part of our master planning team, and they're mapping out exactly how we can do this. And to say once again, what about our neighbors? Well, St. Columba's has been and always will be a neighborhood church. We exist to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ to the entire world, but most immediately to the folks around us. And being good neighbors is essential for us in, I think, for obvious reasons. We know that our neighbors care about what we do, and we know that our neighbors will have all manner of opinions to offer and share with us about what we do, and that's great. So again, we have a plan as to how we're going to be able to talk about this with the entire neighborhood, and we're not there yet. When we get there, we're going to need to all be part of that. So stay tuned, because we'll be back to you this spring. I do want to say, before I invite any questions or comments, and if you have questions or comments, please come to the center mic, the mic in the center of the aisle. There have been a group of Columbans who, as you noted, since early 2020, and there's been some handoff, but there's also been some constancy through that, who are working mightily in all of this. And many of them bring very particular applicable expertise to this work. And I am hugely grateful to each. Many of them are here for all that you have been doing to enable this talk this far, and are guiding us so that as we move forward, we can make these decisions thoughtfully and courageously and faithfully. I'm also behind this, of course, is the leadership of the VESTRY that affirmed that this is what we should be doing, and affirmed that this is how we need to take our vision and calling as to who we are, use our strategic priorities, and then ask these big questions about how to use these assets. I'm going to ask, I've got wardens and chair of the Master Planning Committee, anything you'd like to offer before I open it up? Try it.
I can shout.
No. Why don't you stand up here, because you're actually, here you go.
Here we go. I just want to say, like Ledlie said, thank you to the members of the Master Planning Committee and to the VESTRY. It's a great partnership that we have in this. And I want to invite any of you who would like to join this effort. It's not too late. The Master Planning Committee meets once a month on a Tuesday, and then there are subcommittees that meet along the way. So it's definitely a working committee, and there's room for more of you to join the effort, particularly as we launch the engagement strategy. That's going to be a pretty labor-intensive effort of meeting with lots of ministry leaders and, you know, in other forums. So please reach out. You won't remember my email address. Just let Ledlie know if you want to join this, and he'll pass that on to me.
Why don't you hang on to that in case anyone have comments, questions? Enthusiasm. There's a mic. Go ahead and send them to me, Thelma, and I will forward them along. Thank you for clarifying that. Barbara, can you go to a mic, or here I can?
May I just ask that the slide that has all the ideas on be made public? Because it would help us generate ideas and put things into categories and everything. I just wanted to ask if the slide that had all the lists of ideas in, it just looked like a real plethora of ideas. And I think it would help us all think if we could see that and what has already been thought about.
Good, thanks.
and flow back and forth with the main church.
Yeah, well, I'll say again, first of all, no decisions have been made, but certainly we are looking at how it could flow, and consistent with our priorities of hospitality and accessibility. So for many people, the corner of 42nd and Butterworth is their first glimpse, if you will, as that's the way from which they approach and greet St. Columba's. So there's an opportunity on that corner. And again, when we've talked about hospitality and accessibility, that's that's hugely important for the nursery school and/or for anyone approaching from the Butterworth Street side. If you,
I was just asking because in some communities you have to stick to the footprint that's existing and has existed. Do you have to keep that as a building as something like something?
stay tuned. I don't know the technical answers yet. That's probably a zoning question, and we're not.
Yes, a quick question about the relationship between our plans for the physical planting and our strategy, our mission and vision. So a couple of things. One is, what's the relationship between what we do and what
We don't need this.
diocese is doing as a whole? And secondly, what are the sort of variables that you think about, like congregation size, the size of the congregation and the size of our community, and how that might affect it?
Yeah. Thank you, Charles. We're certainly an active and healthy partner with the diocese, so and mindful. I'm not sure if you have anything in particular in mind behind that question, but I'm also mindful. Being part of the diocese means that we're in a relationship with other congregations that are our immediate neighbors, and how does St. Columba's, how do we support one another, how do we differ from them? Absolutely, we're paying attention to that. The other question about changing size, that goes to the heart of why it's essential that anything we invest in property-wise can be repurposed in the future. We do not know where the Episcopal Church or mainline Protestantism is headed in America. I mean, we know where it's going demographically. St. Columba's is bucking the trend, and we're not alone, but others are too. St. Columba's is thriving and healthy, and this is a great, robust gathering. And we know that in order to be good stewards, we need to design the property in a way so that future vestries and future those of us that are here today, 50 years from now, we want our future selves to be thanking us for the choices we made today, rather than cursing us and saying, why did you leave us with this? But exactly how that's going to take form, I do not know, but we are absolutely paying attention to that the best we can.
Yeah, good morning. There is a board of zoning adjustment order that governs what the church can do with the footprint. That also governs what the nursery school can do. How have the Master Planning Committee and the Nursery School Planning Committee taken the BZA order into account?
You're above my pay grade here. I don't know how to... do you have any... I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. Meet committee member and architect and principal of Cunningham Quill. This is Ralph Cunningham.
Good morning. Thank you. So we are looking at all of those zoning issues with an outside counsel. So we are aware of that, and we are moving forward. Thank you.
On the housing option, are we looking at transitional or long-term affordable housing?
At the moment, we're looking at all options. So there's no, we haven't honed anything down. I'm aware that my phone has been beeping in my pocket. If you're sending me texts, I'm not looking at them right now. If you're signing up to work with Elizabeth's team, great. If you haven't yet signed up to work with Elizabeth's team, then you can text me. Yeah.
Hi, Nancy McKimmey here.
Yes.
As a person who has lived next door to a house which was torn down, and our home suffered some settling, and particularly since the structure which is being considered for destruction is next to an extremely holy place, the Columbarium. I would like to put the architect on the spot, nodding his head, and asking what he thinks about the possible impacts of that.
Thank you. Again, we're certainly aware of that issue and the need to protect the Columbarium along with this building, for that matter. And then there are also various landscape trees, et cetera, that we're also aware of. So we're looking at all that. You saw the survey that was up on the screen from A. Morton Thomas. So they're the civil engineer that we're working with, and we'll certainly be talking with them further about that. And you know, one of the things that we did at the beginning was to have this survey done because we didn't have one. So it's sort of important for us to know what we actually own, and then we can take it from there. Thank you.
Can I just add something? So I think a lot of the questions that you guys are asking, and the answer is we're still considering options. We're still considering options. You really are being brought in early on purpose before we've made decisions. So this is the launch of your opportunity to weigh in on all these issues, and that's intentional, to make sure that the Master Planning Committee doesn't go off and make decisions without involving everybody in the congregation.
Anyone else? Yes, Dick.
I just wanted to bring in a memory that years ago, maybe even decades ago, there was at one point an opportunity for the water ministry to be part of Fletcher House. And one of the things that was an issue then, and I can see it could be an issue today, was the connection between Fletcher House and the rest of the church. That could be involved with the water ministry or with the children's school, anything. I think the flexibility of having a direct connection is important, whatever we're going to do with that space. Mm-hmm. The physical connection.
Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful. Well, I look forward to being able to share with you as we put some flesh on these plans and come back to you and give you and all an opportunity to connect and share your thoughts. So stay tuned. Anything else I want to add?
I just want to add on behalf of the adult formation team, next Sunday we will host Ward 3 Council Member Matt Fruman here to talk about housing issues and some other issues of interest to the neighborhood. Carrie is raising her hand, so I'm going to take the mic to her.
With so many of us gathered, I just also wanted to say that the Refugee Response Ministry is doing an update to the parish at the forum on February 12th. So hope you'll all join us in hearing an update about the 3 families we're sponsoring and other work we're doing. Thank you.
I would be glad if before we go, we could express our thanks to the members of the Master Planning Committee. So. Go in peace, or come and worship, or eat a donut, drink some coffee.